Well, hi there, everyone. Welcome to Story Station from your friends at Words Alive. I'm your conductor today, Mr. Jim, and I'm so glad that you're joining me because today we have a book about someone in history. The story of Johnny Appleseed, written and illustrated by Aliki, and it is brought to us from our friends at Simon and Schuster Books. Thank you for allowing us to read it. And I'm ready to go. Are you? We start by you putting on your watching eyes, right? Your reading eyes. You got it? And then we take our backward C's, put them back here, right? Your listening ears. Are you ready to listen? Okay, good. And I might ask you a question or want some feedback. So make sure your little voice box is on too so I can hear you. All right? Now, let's sing our song about books, right? And you know that the title's on the front. The title's on the front. Hi ho, a biblio, the title's on the front. The author writes the words. The author writes the words. Hi ho, a biblio, the author writes the words. The illustrator draws. The illustrator draws. Hi ho, a biblio, the illustrator draws. And the spine binds the book. The spine binds the book. Hi ho, a biblio, the spine binds the book. And now it's time to read. Oh, now it's time to read. Hi ho, a biblio, now it's time to read. Okay, and we talked about authors and illustrators. Today we have a book again with one name, and it's a one name, Aliki, and she did both the words and the pictures we're going to see in the story of Johnny Appleseed. All right, so let's see this well-worn and much-loved book. It was first written in 1963, many years ago. And it starts with many years ago. When America was a new country, there lived a brave and gentle man named John Chapman. John loved the out of doors. He would walk for miles in the woods among the trees and the flowers, happy and alone with his thoughts. One day, after a long walk, John sat under a tree to eat. To rest rather. He felt the warm sun on his back and the fresh grass tickling his toes. John took an apple from his sack and ate it. And when he had finished, he looked in his hand at what was left, just a few brown seeds. And John thought, if one gathered seeds and planted them, our land would soon be full of apple trees. Now, have you ever eaten an apple all the way down to its core? Well, you'll find at the end, right in the very middle of the apple, some small brown seeds. And those are what gave Johnny Appleseed, well, John Chapman at this point, the idea that he had to plant those seeds. John Chapman lived on the frontier in Massachusetts, where the country had been settled. But every day, pioneers were leaving to travel west, where there were no homes or villages, and where the only roads were Indian trails. So this is long ago when the country was first started, and much of the land east from places like Massachusetts, west from places like Massachusetts, had no towns or cities in them. In their covered wagons, the pioneers made the long and dangerous journey through the wilderness. And here in this page, you may notice too, the illustrator and author, Aliki, she has some colored pages, and some pages she's illustrated in charcoal or black and white. They wanted to build new lives for themselves in a new part of the country. John Chapman went too, but he did not travel in a covered wagon. He walked in his bare feet. He carried no weapons, as men did in those days, to protect themselves from wild animals and danger. He carried only a large sack on his back filled with apple seeds and his cooking pan on his head. As he walked, John planted seeds. He gave a small bagful to everyone he saw, and soon everyone who knew him called him Johnny Appleseed. Well, sometimes Johnny stopped for many weeks, helping the pioneers. They cleared the land, they built homes, they planted rows and rows of apple trees. When they were finished, Johnny walked on to help others, but he always came back to see his friends. So not only was he helpful in giving them the seeds to grow their apple trees, but he helped them build their homes as well. He became part of their community. But then he went on. Everyone loved Johnny Appleseed, especially the children. When Johnny rested from his planting, the children sat around him, listening to all his adventures. For all that walking he did from place to place, he picked up a lot of stories along the way of things that happened to him. Johnny Appleseed walked alone. He slept out of doors in the woods or by the river. He met wolves and foxes, birds and deer, and they were all his friend. One day, as Johnny was eating lunch, he heard a noise, and 3 little bear cubs ran from behind a tree. When the mother came and saw them playing together, she sat and watched. She knew Johnny Appleseed would not harm her young. Now, this part of the story is where we know they've taken some liberties with the fable of Johnny Appleseed, and that a mother bear would not look so kindly on someone playing with her cubs. Don't you think? Johnny met many Indians on the way. He was kind to them and gave them seeds and herbs which they used as medicine. Although the Indians were not friendly to any white men who chased them from their homes, Johnny was their friend. Here you see him giving a gift to the Indians, or what we would say now, Native Americans. So this book was written in 1963 when we used different language for people. Johnny did not like people to fight. He tried to make peace between the settlers and the Indians, for he believed that all men should live together as brothers. So we see him being a peacemaker between these settlers and these Indians or Native Americans. On and on Johnny walked, planting as he went. When he needed more seeds, he collected sacksfuls from the cider mills. Everyone saved his apple seeds for Johnny. Many years passed. Johnny Appleseed walked on. He visited his friends and saw with pleasure the many apple trees which covered the land, and he was happy. Look at all the apple trees, begun by just his act of kindness of giving these seeds away. But then, one year, there was a long, cold winter. When spring should have come, snow was still on the ground, and frost was on the trees. Johnny could not sleep or eat. He was afraid his trees would die. As he was walking among the trees one day, Johnny Appleseed fell to the ground. He was very ill. After some hours, an Indian mother and her son passed and saw Johnny lying in the cold. Quickly, the boy ran for help. Johnny was carried to their village, not far away. Well, for many days he lay ill with fever. The Indians gave him medicine and nursed him. You see him being helped as he's sick in the teepee, which is the type of house that the Native Americans used. And one day, Johnny Appleseed opened his eyes. He smiled at his Indian friends. He knew they had saved his life. He saw that the sun was warm and the frost had left the trees. Spring had come at last, and Johnny was well again. But he never forgot his friends and went to see them often. Johnny Appleseed, the gentle pioneer, lived for many years, planting apple trees wherever he went. We can still see them today. It's true. They are large and old and heavy with apples. They are the gift Johnny Appleseed gave to his country and to you and to me. So that's our book, again, from Simon & Schuster Publications, the story of Johnny Appleseed, written and illustrated by Aliki. You can also look up more stories about Johnny Appleseed, or John Chapman, as he was originally known. And I want to thank you for joining me today at Story Station, and I look forward to seeing you next time.